Welcome to Corporate Caffeine. I'm Dacia Coffee. As a chief marketing officer, speaker, author, copywriter, and three-time entrepreneur, I've learned a thing or two about influence and impact in the business world. So I want to share with you what I've learned about how to be heard, be seen, and be successful, and introduce you to the people I've met along the way who learned how to unlock their potential. Welcome to Corporate Caffeine. On today's episode, we are joined by Burt Copeland, the CEO of New Life CFO. Now, they offer fractional chief financial officer services. And the best way to describe this is for businesses, most of the time they're looking at their numbers in the rearview mirror, what happened in the past. But Burt and his teams come in to amplify profits and to help project a bold future looking forward using your numbers. And what I love about New Life CFO is that Burt brings a unique perspective because he's owned other businesses. He has a specifically operational point of view because he's walked the walk. So he is brilliant at combining profits and people and even purpose. And we've got a cool twist on today's episode because Burt agreed to bring his wife, Lola Copeland, on with him because she has been in marketing for a long time and is now part of the business. And so I think you're going to really enjoy our conversation where we cross the lines between business and personal to really have a specific and bold conversation about what it takes to run a profitable, purpose-filled business. Let's jump right in. Lola, Burt, welcome to Corporate Caffeine. We are so excited to have you guys on here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invite.
We're excited to be here.
I think we're going to be very fun.
Yes. Okay. I was actually thinking right before you guys came over, that this is almost like the beginning of a bad joke. Like two finance people and two marketers having a conversation. And I'm like, wow, this is exactly why we have to do
Are you
it.
trying to describe our marriage? I mean,
or ours.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think they've already written the script for this.
I know, seriously. So hopefully we're rewriting it. But I think that's also what's so intriguing is that, a marketer wanting a CFO to come on, but then also your business partner in crime, your wife, is a marketer, an amazing one.
No, please.
And I'm married to the finance guy. And so
Not quite as skilled as Burt. I've just ran a few. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Exactly. So, okay, why don't you guys, for our audience, talk a little bit. Burt, we'll start with you. Talk a little bit about New Life CFO. Like, what do you guys do? And tell the story of how it started, and then we'll work backwards from there.
Last time I did this, you told me to go much faster than what I did. So I'll try and make it a lot quicker. So New Life CFO, it's something that kind of started by accident, really. And by accident, it started really back when in year 2000. So in 2000, I was the CFO of a construction company, about $65 million. And that was a great gig. About 3 years into that, I got promoted to president. And 2 years after that, the parent company came and says, hey, would you like to, we're thinking about divesting out of this thing. And to do so, we're either going to close down shops, sell them off. But if we sell them off, we're going to talk to the presidents, you, to see if you'd like to buy them. And my answer was, of course, it depends.
Yes.
Because there were some of those locations I wanted nothing to do with. But
Right.
it was absolutely the right decision for the parent to get out of that business because they did not understand construction. So ultimately, we bought
Yeah.
the North Texas operations, which is about $7 million out of the 65, because I really wanted to hyper focus on if I'm going to own it, I want to own it. And so from shortly thereafter, from $7 million, we grew it back up to $21 million on a nice run rate, which is great.
How fast?
3 years.
Wow.
So we had basically tripled it in 3 years. It was great until it wasn't. Because in the third year was 2008. So here's a quick snapshot on 2008. In March of 2008, my revenues were $2 million that month, and we hadn't even hit the busy season. And then we started getting all these calls from our contractors or our general contractors saying, hey, don't come out to the job. We have a postponement going on. And, you get one or two of those calls, not a big deal. You got a big pipeline. But when you get 15, 20, and 30 of those calls, it's like, oh, my God, what's going on? Well, that's about the time that Lehman Brothers spit the bit. And all the banks came up and says, hey, look, before you continue construction on this with the GCs, before we continue funding your construction, we need to do an assessment on the collateral, which means we need you to stop all construction until that's done. And I was like, okay, once I finally got through the nerve-wracking deal of no revenue coming in, it's like, well, how long is this going to go on? You know, a week or two? It's like, we have no idea.
Oh, good Lord.
Exactly. I said, well, that's interesting. What do you want me to do with this 28,000 square feet I have of storage with your stuff in it? And they go, well, we don't know yet. And so my revenues went from being that wonderful $2 million in March to $325,000 in April. May was much better at $375,000, but we lost a small fortune. Like a seven-figure fortune in 90 days.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, it was multiple seven-figure losses that we had between the loss of the value of the business, everything else. I was blessed, though, with some great staff and great experience, because a part of my experience was working in a large CPA firm doing bankruptcies, workouts, turnarounds, reorgs, recaps. Thank God. So actually in 2009, we got all of our reorg done, and 2009 was my most profitable year ever.
Wow.
Yeah. But the scars were still fresh.
Right.
So we made the decision, and construction had really changed. We were a high-level, high-margin service provider, and it went down to whoever had the lowest price won. So I sold my business off to a strategic buyer, which was great. Lots of stress out of that deal. But the end of it is like, holy smokes. If I can step in this bear trap and barely get out alive, having a pretty good background in financial management, then what about, Jane and Bob? Jane's great in its sales cycle, and Bob built a better mousetrap. But do they know how to manage the financials to the best outcome? And so once I transitioned the business, like, you know what? I don't even know what a fractional CFO is, but I'm going to go out and try and service small and mid-market business owners and help them avoid the bear traps that I stepped in, and hopefully help them to realize their dreams, financial dreams, because we all get into these businesses because we have aspirations, not just dumb luck.
Right.
And that's what ultimately led to me starting up New Life. And for us, we call it operational finance. So what that means is all of our CFOs have experiences either, in addition to being a CFO, of course, a COO, a general manager, a president, and two of us have actually owned our own company. So we think it's very important to be an empathetic financial partner and having sat on the other side of that desk, because then you know the emotional stress as well as the financial stress to help them navigate a better future.
Right.
And so far it's gone pretty well. We have 9 people now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And all of them are pretty vested in let's go help the others from stepping in the bear trap.
I mean, that's so huge, even to bring up the empathetic piece, because as a CEO, as a business owner of any size, you're trying to think, okay, I've got this, and you're putting on this air of confidence, and you need to look confident in front of your team, confident in front of your clients. God forbid if you have investors or a board, you need to look confident in front of them. And you don't want to all of a sudden go, I have this major blind spot, and the numbers are scaring me to death, or I don't know what to do about this. I mean, how do you even admit? So, I mean, that's huge to know that,
Oh, yeah.
Who you're talking to sat in your seat, no judgment, no shame. Like, come on, like, let's go. We've got some ideas here for you. Like, that's amazing.
But, and the other thing that we look for is we want people, this sounds bad for, preaching about CFOs, we want people who've stubbed their toe in the past. Because if you stubbed your toe and you've recovered, well, it helps on being empathetic because there's a whole bunch of humility that comes with it. Because if you think that you're in business and you're never going to stub your toe, you already have.
Yeah, you have another thing coming.
Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah. So what made you buy into the construction business to begin with? Did you know it was for sale, knew the numbers, or did you just know construction? I mean, it doesn't sound like you did.
Jeez, that's hard.
No. Not because it failed. Did you just see the profitability in the futures and the ROI in a business like that?
Great question. I'm sorry you asked it. So I was very well versed in the financial management of construction, which is a nuance. And what makes it a nuance is you need to understand how the human behaviors change the numbers. And a lot of people miss that.
Ooh.
So, because I'll tell you, in every business, it's humans that make the numbers. It's not the accountants or the finance people. So I'll back up for a little bit. A part of our job is to be the chief financial education officer. We're sitting on the other side of the table really helps. But as far as me being in the construction business, I love construction. You get to see stuff get built.
Yeah.
Right?
Start to finish, outcomes, just...
And if this thing goes out there, I'll get beat up for this. But a lot of my competition, they were the trades that actually did the work. They were the salespeople that actually sold the work. But not too many of them were really sophisticated business managers and owners. And I was like, wow, there's a great opportunity. And I didn't like the competition model of let's see who can be the fastest to the bottom.
Yes.
I was really vested in how do we develop a better service model and make ourselves more valuable to the GC,
right,
and ultimately get better margins. And that was going really well until it wasn't.
Right.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, so I love that you're talking about the human aspect. And it's funny because honestly, I looked at Lola when you were saying that, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is like what marketers preach about people and behavior and knowing where things come from and being predictive if possible about paying attention to the people.
Right. Yep.
So talk about your background, because we're going to have to braid these together in a minute, because your background is very different from the birth of New Life.
Yes, it's very different. Well, my background is primarily in marketing. I'd say probably a third of it in restaurant, 2/3 of it in food, because the other third of that is packaged goods, both for places like Mission Foods, tortillas and salsas and things like that. And let's see, and then Borden Foods, dairy. So I did that. And my last full-time gig, I was the VP of Field Marketing for Aramark for K through 12. And that position came about in January of 2020, right before COVID hit in March. And so when the majority of us all, kind of got laid off for COVID, started looking around trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And we just decided to go ahead and make the leap. We'd never really thought, hey, we're going to work together. I always kind of had that, separation of let's not put all of our eggs in one basket. That always made me a little nervous. But, we talked about it and it was like, the real value is going to be not you working for somebody else anymore. It's going to be you working for us, because my background is not just in like branding and brand management, but I have a big background in insights and innovation. Probably half of my background is insights and innovation. So, really always loved the psychology of the consumer mindset. And, I was thinking, this morning when I was thinking about this, a lot of times people is like, oh, well, you have B2C experience. You don't have much B2B experience. But I remember a marketing professor one time said, it's all B2C, because it's still a person that's in that chair that you're talking to, even if you're selling business services. Yes. It's still an emotional person that's still making, yes, they're making financial decisions, but it's really an emotional decision about, are you going to make them look good so that they get a promotion and they can make more money?
100%. And you think about people making an emotional decision around financial guidance, financial leadership. Mm-hmm. It's something that's their baby, oftentimes their identity. That's a little more complicated than buying a pack of gum.
Right.
Or,
right.
Or something that you eat.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. Incredibly emotional. And people are going to bring all of those complexities to the table when considering that.
Yeah.
For irrationalities.
I was really intrigued also with the psychological part of consumer-based buying too.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for Anheuser-Busch and Coca-Cola for 2 brief stints, and I was in sales, but we had to work
not
real
so
close. Well, about 13 years ago. Yeah, I guess so.
That's not brief at all.
Yeah, well, looking at it in the grand scheme of things, it's like, wait a minute, yeah, it kind of is, but. Yeah, but I was in the sales part of the thing, but we worked so close with marketing because of impulse buying and stuff like that.
Yeah,
really neat.
But working with the business owners for you too.
Oh yeah. I mainly worked with the business owners.
Yeah, and thinking about how how to maximize their businesses. So, okay, so you guys really hadn't ever thought about it. And it's funny, I mean, because we worked together before, didn't think about it. Like our first stint when he owned the trucking company, literally he came home one Friday and said, babe, we've got a problem. I need you to figure out all of these IRS forms and file these before Monday because we will be in big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And thanks. And he hit the road. And I mean, I have.
Wow, what a great gift.
Well, my gosh.
Yeah.
You have a business degree. You got this. That's
it kind of was like that.
Yes, I know.
In a way.
I
Yeah.
was there.
And all of our eggs were in one basket for, I think, about 8 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we were just talking about that this morning. We're like, this stint is a totally different because we're more secure now.
Mm-hmm.
We can halfway predict things. And
Oh, yeah.
before we had a new family, young kids, and we're just like, it works or it doesn't. Oh my gosh,
When we're
just a
hireable.
constant grind.
God
Yeah.
forbid if this didn't work out, we're very hireable now.
Yeah.
Back then,
Yeah, I know.
we knew a
right?
little less.
It was nerve-wracking.
I hear that.
So it was interesting, but so we had that and we just had to trial by fire, learn, jump straight into the deep end. But then when it came back around, Kyle's the one that said, babe, I think you have a business plan. When I was coming home talking about work and all these opportunities, I said, oh, I think I do. And he goes, it's your turn, let's go. But he didn't jump in immediately because of all of the eggs in one basket. And all of a sudden you learn what you didn't know. And so starting to think a little bit more responsibly. And so he stayed in his career path after we got out of that business. And but we talked for years
You
about...
go, when should I make this transition? I said, she goes, well, I have one solid client. I said, how much revenue a month? I said, do it. You start now. Quit. And what do you mean? I was like, that's going to force you to go find the next one.
Right.
I was like, we can make do with that. That's fine.
And so it was 5 years, 4.5 years when you finally came on board and we had the company?
Wow, that long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
fantastic.
No, it was
We
over
waited.
5 years
Yeah.
before I came on. It was like, what kind of role would I have in the market? I wasn't a marketer by all means. No, I'm still not, but I was like, okay, what kind of role that I can actually contribute to and just not suck money out of the, out of the business. And then it became time when I knew she needed help too. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's like with us, some of the most valuable things that Lola does is taking stuff off my plate.
Yeah.
Because then that becomes the bottleneck. But very similar stuff, when I started out New Life, it's just like, well, this is what I'm just going to go do.
Yes.
Not thinking there was going to be a business. And suddenly it's like, people kept on asking, it's like, well, I guess I need to hire an analyst and maybe another CFO.
That is awesome.
And suddenly it's like, wow, there's more people around here than there should be.
Yeah.
Wow, I think we got something here.
And if you started it that way, where you like, I'm going to really scale this and make it an empire one day of CFOs. It wasn't for the...
That was not a part of my original thought.
Are you sure you're not a marketer?
Well...
My original thought was my first month of revenue was $3,200. I was just like, wow.
Well, that's why I said, at what point was it the transition of going, wow, wait, I think I have a true business model that I can scale this. It wasn't from the beginning, right?
Oh, no.
Right.
I just thought I'd be a solopreneur, right? Just go fill up my own book of business.
I'll just be a consultant.
Yeah, but the demand
consultant.
just kept coming. It's like, wow, we really like how you engage on numbers, how you think. Are there more people like you? And I go, well, I think so. And so that's where we came up with our certain profile about who we're looking for, because that really tended to resonate with them. And you hit on a really powerful statement, the thing about the business is their baby, because that emotional connection is huge.
Yeah.
And if you really don't understand that, I don't care if you're in marketing, finance, any service, that person has 65 to 80% of their net worth at stake. There's a pride in how they built that business as much as there is a pride in their kids going off to college. But the interesting analogy is the baby, the business, when well taken care of, can take care of everybody with one exception. The baby can't take care of itself.
Oh,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you need people that help to take care of the baby. And then when that's well done, Then the baby can throw up all kinds of stuff to take care of everyone and everyone really well. But you have to make sure the baby's okay.
Such a huge point. I think that's one of the things that I've always resonated with you about is exactly what you're just talking about. I mean, how important it is and looking at it big picture, but the emotional aspect also, because even with the name New Life, I mean, I've heard you so many times talk to people, not about the numbers, not about where's the problems, but about let's go back to the point of inspiration. Where did you think you would be? What did you love? What did you want? Where are you now? And how do we get back to that place of joy and excitement and fire and passion? Because we do it in a different way, but so often you come in and people are beat down. They're beat down by their competition. They're beat down by thinking they're better, but they've been commoditized. They're beat down by the trends. They're beat down by learning about marketing when they're like, I don't want to do this. I'm in manufacturing or construction or IT. I don't want to know marketing.
Right.
And the best possible financial plans come out of that conversation. Why did you start this? Where were you going? What was the aspirations you had? What was the hole you saw in the marketplace? And then you get to hear their great, grand dreams about what life looks like if you're always in Disney World. It's a great place.
Yes.
And then ask them, it's like, well, are you there yet? And just, boom.
Yeah.
No, we're not. But you reconnect them back to their vision about what could be. And then you start asking, well, what's in your way? So we did that with one gal, Gail, and I'll just leave it at that. Super gal. Gail was a fireball of what we'd call a daredevil. And
yes.
She was 100% sales. And I go, that's fantastic. And she was complaining about how little her number 2 salesperson was selling. It's like, I could outdo her 10-1. It's like, well, why aren't you? She goes, well, I got to do this and this and this. And it was bookkeeping, filing, somebody doing the tax forms. It's like, why are you doing that? She goes, well, it's got to get done, and I'm responsible, and it's my baby. I said, why? I have found probably the cheapest salesperson you're ever going to hire. She goes, that's fantastic. Where'd you find him? It's like, I can get him in the newspaper tomorrow or on LinkedIn because it's a bookkeeper. We're going to go hire you a bookkeeper for about 50, 60 grand, and that person taking that other 50% off your plate is going to allow you to be this phenomenal salesperson. It's just, it was so powerful. She's like,
I can do that?
I always thought that person is an expense, not as a sales. Like, no, you're the sales. You just need to get this other crud off your plate.
Nice.
Yeah, what's your ROI on that? That's kind of how we decided for me to come full time. It's like, I can take all these things off your plate.
Right.
And how much free time will that allow you to have? And how much are you worth an hour?
Exactly.
There's only so much we could do on the weekends. It was just like, oh my gosh, we're working. You know how it is. I'm sure, where you're going, well, I got to fill in the blanks on the weekends because we didn't have enough time between our 2 schedules during the week. And not that we don't do anything on the weekends, but we've had more free time.
Well, and having somebody be able to read numbers, because I think... I will just say it. I did not realize how naturally that came to you because you were always in the field in our other business. Yeah. And personal finance, he took it because I didn't want it. So, we sit down, we do the budget, we have all the conversations, all the investment stuff, blah, blah, blah.
All hers.
But I never, that's not quite true. It's almost true, but not quite. Yeah. But when you came in, just asking the right questions, challenging me on certain decisions, auditing, why are we paying for all of this software? I'm like, oh, wow. We haven't used that in 2 years.
You have no idea. I was like,
the debt expense is laid everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah, so his overhead that he was so paranoid about turned into our most profitable year. Yeah. He came on. Yeah, exactly. So, but I've seen a huge shift in y'all's business since Lola's come on. And so it's interesting since you didn't plan it. So I've got 2 questions. And so the first or second is going to be, were you nervous about coming on and working together? But then the second is to talk about, how did you jump in? What does that look like? That kind of thing.
Yes, I was nervous. Again, it was putting all the eggs in the basket, but it wasn't as much of that this time as it was just, are we going to end up killing each other because we're going to be around each other too much?
Yeah. Let's touch more on that.
Yeah. I mean, he is wearing long sleeves a little more often now, but to cover up the bruises. But yeah, but no, it's fine. It's the tricky thing is that it's almost, I don't want to say 24/7, but it's kind of like there has to be. He has barriers of like, you can't talk to me for 30 minutes after I come into the house. Well, my new barrier is it's like, okay, if I'm in like my robe, no, we're not talking business.
Yes.
Like you may have already had 6 cups of coffee,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I'm just getting up, but no, I'm still in my
Guilty.
robe. You know,
We
I am
will
as
be
well.
driving. He is such a morning person, and we will drive to the gym. And literally, because he jumps out of bed. I've only been awake for 15 minutes. I'm in the car, and all of a sudden he's talking about something incredibly complicated to my foggy brain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Well, my theory is
Right.
when else do we have time? Let's make the best of this 20-minute ride. You know, that's how I'm looking at it. And I'm like, and then we can go about our day. Like, no. Oh, my God.
we were doing stuff on the way over here. I was taking notes on stuff.
It was very productive. I mean, you're right. But I do want to correct something. I don't have a rule of don't talk to me when I first walk in the door. I have a rule of don't give me any to-dos. Because she is a master of here's your to-do list. Now when are you going to get it done? Which is great normally, except for at the end of the day, it's like, okay, ixnay on that for a little bit.
Oh, it's at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Maybe you ought to carry those around in your robe and say, hey.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I like that
I'm sorry,
idea.
we got to go.
First done.
I like that idea.
We gotta go.
You can come up with this idea.
No, he'll just start like, blah, 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 and I'm like,
Not yet.
my coffee, I have nothing to write on. Really?
Sorry.
Like not.
Okay, so flip it around. Like, what have been the surprising great parts? Obviously, besides the business growing, and you guys have not killed each other, so we'll just go ahead and chalk that up as
there you
a
go.
win. But what have been the surprising parts about, wow, this working together is working?
You want me to go first or you?
I would say an appreciation of each other even more.
Wow.
Like as we see each other, you know, I kind of helped him a little bit in the past. You know, he'll be like, hey, can you look at this or can you look at that? Or I need some help working on a presentation or what have you. You know, over the years, I helped him with that. But, you know, working side by side more, it's like, you know, I'm like, wow, I'm like in awe of your ability to like just see this stuff and be able to communicate it in a normal, everyday manner without MBA speak. I mean, it's just like, wow.
Y'all got that recorded, right?
Oh my God, I love that. I mean, because I agree. There's so many details of how he thinks and what he does and what he says during the day. And when we get into business conversations that before it was over a glass of wine or over the weekend or I'm having a bad day, can you help me figure this out? And, you know, he's a great sounding board. But then when he's bringing things in, I'm like, I can totally relate to what you're saying. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and the great thing is you know your partner's smart, right? Or has certain gifts, whatever those are. Yeah. But you aren't the recipient of those gifts, not in their work style. You are in the personal style. But working together has actually improved our relationship is what I'd argue. Because, you know, I know that she's super smart. She's by far the smartest person in our family. And she's by far the most productive human being I've ever met in my life.
Amen.
But to be the recipient of that, it is awesome. It is total greatness.
You know, part of that magic is my to-do list.
And then there's that.
Just wield that sword selectively.
Yeah.
But she will go like, okay, here's the things you need to do. But it's really great because it's liberating. I have somebody that I know, like, trust, and love that I know has my best interest at heart. And her love language is serve. I've seen it all my life with my kids. She wants to serve. She serves very well. It's how she expresses love. And that has really infused our relationship. I mean, we talk about work at home, but it's not what the hell didn't happen. It's like, oh, this idea and that idea, and oh, I can help you here and here. It's a escalating build, not a de-escalating attack.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Oh,
Phenomenal. But I will tell you this, that just as a sidebar, one thing that really helped us is we actually went through a ministry at one point in time, and it taught us the power of forgiveness. It was
wow.
incredible. And not only to grant forgiveness, not mentally, but verbally, but also to ask for forgiveness. I know I really upset you. Can you forgive me? And that also moved our relationship to a whole nother level that I'm not so sure we had been successful as business partners right now without that underlying foundation about how do you ask for, get, and give forgiveness.
Wow.
It was unreal.
Wow.
Now, you took that course after you started working together?
Oh, no.
Before. It was a couple of
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
You're really
incredible.
applying it now, you know.
It's just a foundational piece now.
Mm.
And it's really very powerful because our kids, our family tell you, y'all don't treat each other the same anymore, which is a good thing.
Wow.
Because, you know, if you let the friction build up without asking for or receiving forgiveness, man, it just spirals
Yeah.
unhealthily. But if I know that forgiveness is around the corner, even when I'm the jackwagon in the room, which never happens, never.
Yeah. Me either. You know.
It makes it so much
We
easier.
are a
going,
lot
okay.
alike.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Because I mean, I think for us, we communicate well and very straightforward, but I think it's because of having been married for 20 years and going through some significant changes. The first business taught us a lot, and just we had already gone through some big, significant
You know, you're not a
decisions
numbers
together.
person. We've been married 21. But anyway.
Didn't I say over?
I'm just joking.
Touche.
It's so great.
But, you know, like for instance, when we decided to leave the first business and sell it off, I mean, that was so transformational in regards to our relationship, how we had to talk about things, you know, dealing with the emotion of that. I mean, really rebuilding our life, you know,
Yeah.
because we reprioritized and you took the lead on that. And I mean, you know, after you go through something that I mean, like, it's so hard to even just put it into words, which is weird for me. But, you know, I think that taught us so much, you know, and prepped us to do good work together.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's not even going to add to this. He's going to say, yep, I'm
for
awesome
sure.
to work with.
You said it so well. What's there to add?
No, I do want to touch base how you started the conversation about knowing how good they are at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew she was good marketer and definitely could sell her marketing abilities by the work that she was getting. But I didn't realize of the impact it really was on her clients until I got to see it with my own two eyes in her workshops, going and visiting these people and going, wow, she does know what she is a master at this, you know. I'll pat your back on that one. But but I didn't know to that extent. I was like, oh, wow. Like, you are definitely a pro at this, you know.
Well, ironically, you're the one that accelerated our marketing. Because
how's that?
when he gave voice to that, so the cobbler's children
Oh.
never have shoes. And marketing agencies, marketers are notorious for not doing our own marketing because we're too busy doing everyone else's. And so he came in and was like, this is unacceptable. Why are we not talking about that? That was good. Why have you not put that out there? Why are we not videotaping that? Why are we not doing this for clients?
Yeah.
And it was all the things that we were not leveraging.
Yeah.
He was like, not acceptable, total waste, get that going.
Yeah.
So-
I was like, your website doesn't describe anything you do. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, when's the last time you looked at it? You know, because I haven't looked at it forever. And I started looking at it going, this doesn't even sound like what they're doing, you know? And we're getting ready to change that again. But
We're marketers.
If you're not
Yeah,
changing it, man, it's only a matter before it's stagnant and dying.
I know, if you're not
Yes.
changing, you're not growing.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So what do you do on a day-to-day basis, Lola?
Gosh, it just depends. A lot of it is just follow up. Some of it is operational stuff. Contracts, proposals, things like that. Trying to, looking at different softwares, software programs that might make things a little bit more efficient. Every now and then I go back through the website, but we've kind of done a really great refresh of that just in the last couple of months, so I'm not too worried about that. Constantly working with you guys on new content, event marketing, because, we did kind of shift our focus, on marketing back in probably February, March. And so we've gone to a lot more, content, blogs, event marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So there's always something going on from that perspective.
Okay, so I want to dive in
that
on
wasn't
that.
nearly enough.
I know. And on top of that, so she's covering a wide range of things. And knowing you, even sometimes on a day-to-day basis, I know how many things you're constantly researching and thinking about and prioritizing or incubating, et cetera, et cetera. And Burt just named you one of the most productive people on the planet. Okay, what are your secrets? Because it's so easy to chase squirrels and not finish something and then add something else and come up with an idea. And so you're an idea person, but you're constantly getting stuff out the door. How are you doing that? But everyone has a to-do list. What's different about hers?
Well, but I also, if it's too crazy, I block my calendar. Like, I actually make appointments on my calendar with, like, okay, you've got to get in touch with so-and-so at the club or what have you. You've got to, send out that reminder to these people that are part of that event. And, I'll just block it off on my calendar. So I make sure there's time to do that and then kind of fill in. It's kind of like the pebbles in the jar and then you put the sand around it. I worry about the pebbles and then I worry about the sand.
Nice.
But you're also great at focusing. So if there's big things on the to-do list, you're going to be on that like a dog on bone until it's done. Most other people start chewing and go, oh my gosh, it smells like bologna over here. I'm going to go tell you that. But you don't. You get it done. And then you move on. Most people are like, I'm going to touch 5 things and none of them get done. You are a master of knocking that stuff out. The other things that she's really great that Denver talked about is she's the pit bull in our office. Very pleasantly, of course. But, for all of our other CFOs, holding them accountable for this is your job to support this part of marketing or that part of our internal initiatives, you're going to deliver it. It's awesome to have somebody else chasing the monkeys. It's just great. Because, it's that old adage of everybody loves their business if it wasn't for customers and employees.
Exactly. It'd be so easy for work for the people.
And we're blessed with both great customers and great employees, but there are days, and I'm sure they feel the same way about me.
Ditto. Oh my gosh.
And I think I'm pretty nice about it.
You are.
But apparently
You're not.
I'm seen as a pit bull.
A friendly one.
Yeah,
that was just an expression of your perseverance on the matter, not your gruffness. Because you're not gruff, but they know you're there.
Right.
They know if they don't deliver, they're going to hear about it. And there's an expectation that the due date's a due date.
Accountability.
Yeah,
yes.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
And your team is outstanding. It's not appropriate to let smart people off the hook for stewarding their knowledge, getting it out there, serving people. We agree so much about this, about service before the invoice, impact before the invoice. And this is how you do that, is teaching people, educating them, helping them to help themselves. And then when they can't, then it's time to have a conversation. But you guys are amazing at putting that out there so people are accelerating their vision. And it's not just because they signed a contract with you. And that's huge. And that is a really honorable place to hold people accountable. Like, that's a big deal. So I love that.
Well, and a part of our business model, we talked about what we do as CFOs and accountants, but really a part of our business model is how do we become more attractive to great CFOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, if I can just attract the best CFOs, then I'm going to be a really good CFO firm. But that's the trick, because I'm not the best CFO. So we really step back and says, how do we help CFOs do better as fractional CFOs? And what that really backs into is, golly, if we can build a better mousetrap about attracting clients, attracting leads, making them more visible in the marketplace, I'll probably be more attractive to other CFOs.
Right.
Because the average CFO, on a scale of 1 to 10, their propensity, desire, and capabilities of doing business development, selling, and everything else, It's close to zero.
Well, you have,
Not the highest and best use of a financial mind.
There is a reason they didn't take sales and marketing in college. They love numbers. They love to go and solve those problems. And that's what they love to do. And if you can build a model to where you can bring in opportunities to where they don't have to feed themselves all the time, you're going to attract the better CFOs.
Yeah.
But they still have to have the mindset of being a servant leader and having the emotional intelligence to know that that CEO, sometimes you're the only one that he can talk frank or she can talk frankly to.
Yep.
Because they're kind of like on a lonely island sometimes because they can't necessarily talk to anybody else in their firm because of what's on their mind. They don't want anybody else to know. So it's a very specific profile that we look for.
That's awesome.
So along those lines, we end up with 3 core processes that we continue to think about and try and come back to. Number 1 is marketing, right? So as a core process, marketing is a core process for us because if we just make it an event, it's not going to happen. Number 2, and this is a part that we're really shifting into, is recruitment as a process, not as an event. We're not quite there yet, but that's a part of it. And number 3 is how do we help binary finance guys and gals become more emotionally intelligent? And we really have one CFO that's fantastic in it, and he's taken on the responsibility of taking our newest CFOs under his wing. He's going to really lean into them and help them understand what emotional intelligence looks like, feels like, and how to work with a CEO. So at our meetings every other week, we talk openly about what's going on with your CEO clients and how do we help them connect the dots, not financially, but emotionally to their outcomes. Right. And it's a very powerful conversation.
That's amazing. It's interesting because on our calls, we talk about there's confidence, how confident they feel. Because when you're talking about marketing, you're talking about how people perceive you. Like, whoo, there's some vulnerability that comes in there, and a lot of second guessing and thinking. And so maintaining that confident approach, how they feel about what's happening in addition to progress and results, and so it's different, but still, the same idea that you just have to pay attention to the human side of humans.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right. And the fact that you're doing that intentionally as a process, as a training approach. That what I love too is that is such values alignment. That is walking the walk, not, oh, we did some really great naming and we talk a good game or we've got a very charismatic CEO. But that is literally going, no, this is what we believe to our core about how we help people. That's amazing.
Well, we had at our last meeting, it was really a cool conversation because one of our CFOs brought it and goes, I got a real big problem. Okay, what's that? He goes, well, one of my clients has made some really bad decisions in their personal financial management, and they want my help to help undo that. And it's like, that's not what we do. And we're like, tap the brakes there.
Yeah.
You have no idea what a inner sanctum you've been invited into. This is exactly where you lean in on.
Wow.
And whether we have the expertise or not, this is exactly where we have to serve them.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, no like or trust, they've opened up a door that is rarely open to anyone. And you have to go into that door. You may not know all the answers in that door, but you're going to help them explore what those answers are and solve those problems. And when done well, now you're a partner for life, right? Not because you're in their inner sanctum, but you help them solve something that they might not even be sharing with their spouse, much less certainly not with their staff, right. And certainly not with their peers that they want to appear larger than life with. Because let's face it, at the country club, nobody talks about the investments that go bad.
No.
Right.
Right.
No.
But that's what they're thinking about all the time. And if they can't talk about it and they can't get guidance on how to get themselves unburied and out of those snafus, wow.
It is the stuff that keeps them awake. Whether it's a business issue that they really can't confide in or a personal business issue that they can't confide in because we don't want to look stupid in front of our peers.
No.
Even though our peers may know that we're stupid.
A lot of those CEOs who own their own businesses, their finances do go hand in hand, a personal and business.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure they treat them the same too, or they wouldn't be in bad shape in one and not the other. I would imagine. You probably very rarely see, I've got just the healthiest, I'm slamming and jamming over here with my business, but my personal finances, they'll be able to reel in spending there too, you would think.
I am so surprised. The other day, I was having a conversation with a family office guy. And, of course, he didn't use names or anything like that. But, he mentioned how frequently people are running personal finance through their business and, all of this other stuff. And I just was so surprised. He's talking about how messy it is and how difficult it is to untangle and all of the different layers, especially if it's a family business and succession planning and, legacy and all of this. And I thought, wow. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Well, that's what Cynthia was talking about at the how to prepare your business for a successful exit.
Yes.
And Cynthia was saying that's a big red flag when it comes to getting someone interested in buying your business when you want to exit, is if you're doing your personal stuff, running it through your business. So,
and I'm not trying to be dismissive of great CPAs, tax CPAs out there, but sometimes too much of the right advice becomes the wrong advice. Like, you need to push all your personal stuff through there and all this other stuff. And what happens is the waters become muddied between what's my business and what's my life.
Right.
So if you manage your business as a business, because here comes the slippery slope, and you're not managing your life, well, the business is going to become imperiled because of what's going on in your life. So we have a couple of metrics that we talk about, and we describe them as these are cookie jar metrics. And the CEO goes, well, what's a cookie jar metric? It's like, it's to keep your hand out of the cookie jar from taking too much capital out of here.
Right.
And to know, hey, the cookie jar is full enough for you to take money out of here without jeopardizing the baby. Because again, the baby can't take care of itself.
Right.
So too many companies, they'll make decisions based on their revenue, or they have a big wad of cash in the bank. It's like, time to go buy that lake house. It's like, no. If you really want to hit 40% growth, you're going to need every dime of that next year to make that happen. And that's where you kind of lean in and go, okay, as I better understand your personal goals, I can better understand your financial goals, and we're going to connect those dots so they're both enabled, but with a patient, prioritized platform.
Yes. It's interesting. One of our commercial roofing clients, we have had multiple, ironically, but so I'm not giving anything away. But one of them, they're growing, but it's the kind of business where they have to staff up, right? It's not hire one person. They have to staff up an entire crew. Yeah. And so they're constantly, every time we are able to help them hit a new amount of growth or fix a sales problem or whatever, they are in cash flow hell. It's too bad they don't live in Texas because they really need you. But it's been
plug is 13 weeks of cash flow.
I know, exactly. but it's more than that though. I mean, the planning of that, and just to watch it, and I know he's being coached. I doubt he has the CFO, but it's been frustrating to watch because there's only so much we do, and there was a conversation recently about we need to tap the brakes. You don't need revenue only. We need to talk about this. Like, this is the same thing happening over and over and over. And we just need to have the conversation because I'm out on how to help you at this point. But revenue is not solving your problems. Revenue is creating cash flow because then you're soaking it back up into future investment, and I can see it, and I don't know how to tell you this is not a good train track that you're on.
We were just talking a few weeks ago. Who were we talking to? And about how some small business owners, when they first get started, they kind of judge their business on what's left at the end of the month in their checking account. And you see it so many times. And and now that I know, I'm like, whoa, that's the wrong thing to do. Never do that. You have to know what's going on. You may had a vendor pay you twice that month. It normally pays you once, and you've got a healthy checking account that month. I mean, it was crazy listening to him. He was a coach. Who was that? Anyways.
Yes, he's a CEO coach.
Yeah, all the time. I'll do some presentations or yucking around with some CEOs. Like, okay, just for fun, tell me the top 3 things you look at when you get your financials each month. That's assuming they get them each month, but we'll go with that.
Yeah.
And they will say, well, revenue or EBITDA or net income, 1 and 2. And third will be cash. And I go, that's awesome. You just looked at the 3 most misleading things about your business.
Oh, no.
Because you make decisions on revenue or just your cash balance, odds are you're going to become irrationally exuberant and make premature decisions.
Yeah.
Like on your roofing company. Hiring people and running out of cash happens all the time.
Oh, I've been there. I did it
Oh, yeah.
in the past. Oh, yeah.
But as you work with entrepreneurs, the key is how do you keep this stuff simple?
Yeah.
Because if I glaze them over with a whole bunch of jargon about debits and credits and accruals, like I lost them already. But for take this back to your roofing company, revenue per head. Well, everybody understands that. And so the question is, I need to hire 10 people. Okay, why? Well, because we got 10 people's worth of work going on here. It's like, that's fantastic. Can you tell me how we're going to get 10 people's worth of revenue to cover that deal? Because if we dilute that metric, we have a problem that's coming down the pike. So it's always better than you start looking at how do I stretch my people, and then I'll bring it back down to that metric, not dilute the metric and then try and raise it back up. That's the wrong math. But if you just keep it down to what's my revenue per head, and it helps to modulate the head count, but it also helps to hold you accountable for how much revenue you better produce real quick with certainty before you overinvest. Because if you hire too many people, what it's really telling you, and that metric dilutes, you're throwing bodies at a problem, right? And you haven't solved the root cause. You're just throwing more expenses at the problem. And, oh, man, you can start hearing the shovel digging in the dirt already.
Yes.
She was going, so what? This was about 6 months ago. So what number was it that we were going to hire somebody else? I said, it's the same thing it's been for a year ago. I said, it's the, you know, she goes, you're just guessing that.
Just
I said,
testing
no, I'm not.
waters.
Look, I take X, Y, Z. After we get so much more, but you can hire this person, and, you know, it adjusts a little bit depending on what their salary ranges are, but it's still the same concept. And, anyway.
And it's been wildly helpful because it's helped me be disciplined and plan appropriately and even communicate to the team, hey guys, I know, that we have a need and it is going to be covered once we hit this, and telling the team the truth.
Right.
That is a load off my back also. And then they're like, oh, okay. And we either make good on it or we don't. And then that's a whole nother problem, but they know they can trust us. Or at least we're trying
to connect the dots about how they're a part of that solution, right? It's not just, you got to go produce more revenue and they have to live without heads.
Yes.
It's like, how do they solve that with you?
Yes.
So what we did was one of our clients, because whether it's professional services, whether it's programming, you're selling hours in, IP. That's all you're selling. So what we did with them is we went with their folks, and we said they had 50 programmers and project managers, et cetera, and I says, okay, so here's the deal. Out of all 50 of you, how many of y'all step over 2 hours worth of work each week that you probably could have billed for, but you didn't, probably could have raised as a change order, but you didn't, or probably could have done 2 hours faster, but you didn't? You want to guess how many hands out of the 50 went up?
All of them, I'd say.
All of them.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I said, well, that's really interesting. Your average bill rate is X. If I take 2 hours times 50 people times X times 50 weeks, you went from lowest tier for profitability to in the 70th percentile.
Wow.
And how many more resources can you afford if you pick up the 70th percentile? And they're like, oh my God. And it's like, it's a small stuff done by individuals over and over that adds up to huge enabling dollars, but you have to understand the piles of money you're stepping over that you just assume are trivial.
Yes. It's interesting applying that to marketing, ironically. Over the past year, I've had to dive more into numbers and pipeline numbers and where is everything going than ever before, because as people are pivoting, there's no benchmarks for post-pandemic lead generation.
Right.
No matter what people are saying, except what's happened historically and what's happening now, in making good decisions about where your money should be applied and where your people's time and attention should be applied. And just recently, we were doing digital ads on our side. We're saying it's working. You can tell emotionally. They are saying it is not working. And finally I go, okay, why? What's the emotion around this? Because these numbers should be translating to sales. Show us how much where the sales coming from. Took us weeks to get the CRM information. Weeks. This is a very straightforward conversation. How many have you sold? And how many appointments? Crickets. So we finally got it. They don't have a marketing problem. They have a sales problem. I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to get myself fired, but right now the money that you were spending is not effective and not needed, because right now all of this lead generation that is working is going into a big black hole. And it was horrific and exciting. But I'm looking at that spreadsheet just behind my computer by myself, and I went, oh no.
They can't
This
convert.
is bad. Exactly. I called their IT person. Are you sure this is right? As far as we can tell, and then you just go and tell the truth and help them make a good decision, because if they fix that problem, well, they fix a lot of problems, because we already know the lead gen will work. But now I'm like, okay, how fast can we fix this problem? But, just stepping into that and, wanting them to be successful, but paying attention to what did the numbers say, what's really happening. And, somebody's got to uncover that, no matter what it means, and time will tell what it means. But at least we've named the right problem.
Right.
And while people rip on salespeople all the time, I'll tell you, there's no more valuable and unique human being in your organization than a salesperson. Yes, there's project managers that do great, but a salesperson is such an extraordinary, unique DNA that's willing to go out there and be told, no, not now, don't like you 1,000 times, and get used to it. Where everybody else is like, I don't want to do that. And a really good salesperson, when well compensated, is probably the most aligned person with ownership than anybody else in the company.
Oh, heck yeah. Because they are, especially if they're hungry, they're
if they're
hunting
not hungry,
for their...
you hired the wrong one.
Yes, that's right. But they care as much about success as you do. That's right.
Yeah.
Totally aligned. Absolutely. Having a conversation with Chris Goad the other day, and he walked me through this process of how you set a salesperson up for success. I thought I knew a lot about sales alignment. Obviously, I'm not a salesperson, I'm marketing, but holy cow. I was like, yes, that's how you do it. I was like taking notes. I'm like, anybody listen to this video, y'all better be taking notes. This is good stuff. But I love what you're saying there.
Oh, I learned it the hard way. I had this sales gal, still a good friend of mine. Her name's Jolene. She was the most passionate, assertive salesperson in the world. Great, unless you crossed her. Now, in my first role as being the CFO and her being our top salesperson, we got crossed a lot. And her idea of a good time was to pull your eyelids up and over your head. It's just, we'll show you who's who. But over time, we really developed a great relationship. And my respect for her is profound, because what she really uncovered is, how do you become successful as a salesperson? And how do you really instruct salespeople in their own weaknesses and help to uncover that? And she was a great mentor. In fact, she became an internal coach. I would never take something to the sales team that I hadn't already vetted with Jolene for all the pros and cons.
Nice.
Because then she was an advocate in the room and not an adversary. It was so sweet.
So good to have those people. Oh my goodness.
So when are the moments you guys remove business from personal relationship?
Well, we do sleep.
Well, yeah, I know. It's a hard one to juggle, because on vacation you leave it alone.
Yeah.
Pretty much vacation. A lot of, I do work my fair share of Saturdays, but usually once work is done on Saturday, or if I don't work Saturday, we're kind of done for the weekend.
Yeah.
I try not to even look at email on Sunday. Sometimes that upsets people. But I tell people, if you have an emergency, text me. And if it's a real emergency, put 911 : and then tell me what the hell you want.
Yeah.
But other than that, I have to disconnect.
Yeah.
Because if I don't and spend time with you, we're going to go walk the dog, or go hang out, going to have a glass of wine and yuck it up. Then we don't connect.
There's actually been times like when we took a vacation in August. Like, it's like I had my whole list of stuff. It's like, great, we'll be in the car and we'll have some time, when we're at a hotel or whatever. And we can knock this, and this, and this out. I didn't do any of it.
To-do list. Did y'all hear it?
I heard it loud and clear. We've
healthy.
taken
You have
vacations.
to just go put it away.
We've taken vacations where I've had to stop at a Starbucks in the middle of, well, not nowhere because there's no Starbucks.
Right,
so
right.
she can get on the internet,
Right,
you know.
right, exactly.
And finish it. And I'm like, I understood in that. But
Yeah.
now it's to the point where you're just like, all right. You know, we would sit on the back patio, have a beer or something like that, and always talk work. And now you're going, all right, there's got to be a time where we go, all right,
Yeah.
if we're going out to eat, no work. If
Right.
we're going to do this, no work. You
Right.
know, you kind of got to establish it before you leave the door. Because if not, that's a fight waiting to happen. What do you mean you don't want to talk about this? This is important. You know.
I just don't take anything to write on because if I don't have anything to write on, he
It all
can't
stops.
tell me. Remember it.
And I'm
So
real
you
bad.
read her purse first, take all the pins out.
Yeah, and my ideas are like the Tasmanian devil rattling around inside my head. They're
Yeah.
coming out. It's
Yeah.
getting out. Like the other week. You know, in a totally different experience, we had one of the greatest dinners together we've had in a long time. One of the most delightful deals. And it didn't start out well. Like things were sideways. There was a lot of friction and yick. And so we kind of pulled over as we were going out to dinner and says, okay, let's talk about what's going on. And what we did for dinner, ultimately, is we went, bought 2 bottles of wine, and went to Payway, picked up some deal, and we had this nice big park that overlooks a lake near our house.
Yeah.
And we just sat out there on the bench for a couple of hours, laughing our heads off.
Ah,
About, in fact, we had people walking their dogs going, what is wrong with you? It's like, we're having a
How
great
many
time.
bottles? Yeah.
that's
I know
amazing.
exactly, right?
But
Ah.
there was still wine left over in case you're
Yeah.
But it was a great night because we stopped talking about all the stuff that was creating the friction points. And
Yeah.
I don't know that we've laughed that loud in a long time. Certainly not out in public.
That's awesome.
Well, it's easy when you have your own career, your own job, and you know, and you're like, okay, by the time I get home, I'm going to leave that at work.
Right.
But you guys don't have that privilege. We don't have that privilege. And to have those boundaries, it's tough sometimes.
I think also the space to find the things that are actually human during the day that are not about work, even though they happen during the workday. You know, I mean, it doesn't float up to the surface to talk about to you or go, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what happened today until, you know, there's certain boundaries set up or until we stop talking about work and then the random starts floating up.
Yeah.
You know, the real life starts floating up about something funny somebody said or the quirkiest thing I heard or a podcast that you listened to or anything like that. But it does take a minute for it to sift,
Yeah.
you know, and just to get normal, back to normal sharing versus business sharing. Yeah.
Well, it's something Lola's allowed me to do, and it's probably serves her just as well, is our own time, right? So once or twice a month, we have some hunting property out west of Fort Worth, and I'll go out there and I'll do what I call sweat therapy. So go build a fence. I've built an outdoor kitchen, a little pergola. We're working on a little cabin right now, and it is fantastic. There's nothing but sometimes I'll listen to a book, but usually it's just country western music, me and a bunch of tools and jacking stuff up and trying to repair my own work. And it probably does her a world of good to be alone at the house without me banging around on stuff.
No hunting to it. That's what some people don't get. Like I know guys who hunt, but they really don't go hunt. They go out there, they hang out with their friends.
I can't hear a single truck,
Yeah.
car, or motorized vehicle at all while I'm out there. The only thing motorized is my drill, my saw, and other hand tools. And those shut off at a certain time. And what's great, so maybe too much personal detail, this place backs up to the Brazos River.
Oh, yeah.
So at the end of sweat therapy, I'm down there at the Brazos River with 3 beers that are ice cold, a cigar, and I'm into the water up to my neck, just having a great time.
Yeah.
And the Brazos River, for those
Lord
who don't
knows he's not allowed to have a cigar at home.
if you're close enough to PK Dam, for those who don't know, it's cool. No matter how hot it is out, that water is cool. I've kayaked from that dam, you know,
You might have gone right by our place.
I probably have. I've done that from the dam 20 miles, basically. Stay 10 miles overnight, you know, pull up on a sandbar camp and go on down, fish and that, you know. Really
Very
enjoy
nice.
it. Yeah.
Yep. So what have you guys seen recently that's different? And it can be personal, like how are people different, or business. But, how have things changed in y'all's perspective, for better or for worse, in the last 18 months?
I don't know. One of the things, I'm talking to our daughters at Nebraska, studying psychology. And, one of the things I've talked to her about, because she's always like, oh, I don't want to do 6 or 7 years of school. And I was like, look, sugar, everybody has mental health issues now with COVID. I mean, a lot of people had them beforehand, but now everybody has some sort of mental health issue because of, the isolation and all of that. And it's like, you need to seriously consider, first of all, do the medical side of psychology, not just the fluff part, so that you can go on and get a degree in that if you want to, because there's going to be huge demand for it.
Yes.
And it's sad. I mean, there's a situation going on with some folks that we know with, that are in probably their late 70s, 80s, and there's some real mental health going on there, and it's just sad.
Yes.
So.
I would like to say that there's more awareness and openness around it, but I don't think so. I think
I do think there is. I do
you think so? I hope so.
Well, did you watch the games? Was it yesterday? No, the day before on Sunday. There was a lot with the NFL.
The NFL player.
With the players. I mean, the NBA. I mean, Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers came out and talked a lot about it, his mental health issues. But the NFL, I must have seen at least 4 different players talk about their mental health issues.
It just happened to Simone Biles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good point.
Yeah, and Naomi Osaka, is that her name? The tennis player? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, there was a documentary on Roddick's tennis partner. That was pretty neat. And he came back in his 30s and competed again, and it was like the platform. Everyone knew it at that point. And it's actually really competitive. What was his name?
Oh, it was heartbreaking, though.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah,
You're right.
I don't play tennis, so
I know, exactly. No, it's such a good point. Such a good point.
See, and I was going to kind of pivot onto the resiliency that a lot of people have shown, and I get it that there's fragility as well. But boy, so many people have gone through this and go, you know what? That wasn't as painful as I thought, or looking back and like, wow, I learned a whole lot about me. I learned a whole lot about other people. I learned a whole lot about dealing with really adverse situations that I never would have thought of before. And then kind of stepping back going, wow, I have some really new tools. And personally, I think that's one of the most important lessons. Like for young people that may or may not be listening to this, they can find themselves in what they say is a bad job. But I'd argue, unless it's a really bad boss, you don't have a bad job. You have a learning experience.
Yes.
Because, I look back at my own career. So I jokingly described my first job, which was in a big audit firm. And I was doing, audits for big public companies. And I described that job as being skinned alive with the butter knife. Because at the time, I didn't like it at all. I thought I'd wasted 4 years of my career, but now with a lot more gray hair or gray hair.
Yeah, just say gray hair.
Yeah, just gray hair. But with that going on, you can kind of look back and go, oh my gosh, I can see how all these different points now connect to uniquely enable me to do the things I'm doing now. And while it may have been difficult then, boy, did it work out really well. So, so when you're in those bad jobs, quote unquote, looking to say, what am I going to learn here? What can I utilize? What are the assets that I can take from here? Because there's a reason why I'm doing this, and I need to be introspective about what is it that is the purpose for me being here, and what am I supposed to glean from this? Because there's either another open door, a tool, or an experience that I'm supposed to have here, and let's ask about that. And then when I check the box, it says, you know what, I think I've got that, then it's time to move on, but not before.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. I was like wanting to jump in and just keep on adding to that. He's like, no, he's taking the words out of my mouth. Period. But I think a lot of people also realize what they want to do in the future since all this has happened as well. They've had time to think, find themselves, sit down, and analyze, this job's not for me. They talk about the big, the transition of, 40% of the workforce.
The great resignation.
Yeah. And they're realizing what they and now they're hungry to go get it. Well, on the backside of this, you're going to see in the next 5 years, we're seeing growth, but I think it's going to be a different type of innovation, all kinds of things that come out of this in a positive light.
I think that's going to be a great thing too. I think it's going to be painful, right? Like that much turn and turnover. However, we did just learn we can do hard things. Right. We can handle accelerated change. And people trying to find the highest and best use. So powerful. And it's interesting, something going back to what you said, Lola, about the mental health issues and that kind of thing. I think any sort of people having that introspection around where do I go from here? What's really happening with me? And hopefully more and more awareness. People's best work happens when there's open acknowledgement that there is a whole human being. Right. With lots of skill sets that may or may not be used in their current position, and that you can do it. Like you can keep going. And I think if there's more conversation around, you should want more. You can do more. You can help other people find something better, even if it's not how you thought it was going to be. That there could be this big whole, not revolution, but evolution, I suppose, where we take work more seriously and bring our highest and best hearts, not just our brains, to the table. Oh, yeah. So,
because too often that great resignation is talked about so negatively, like it's going to be horribly disruptive and it's going to ruin everything. And oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's like, whoa, tap the brakes. If 40% of the people are changing, it means 40% of the people are available for me to attract.
Yes.
Exactly.
And
open and willing.
What is it about my culture that would or would not be attractive? What is it about them that they do or do not want to engage with? Because it could be the greatest opportunity for talent shift in our country.
Yes.
It's going to separate the good working companies and how they're structured versus the bad ones really quick. When they all start, everyone's leaving them. And then all of a sudden, all the resumes are going to this company XY over here. It's going to funnel out, and the best will be on top. Yeah. And you're hearing that mainly by Wall Street and these big corporations because they're scared of it.
Right.
As the little guys, we love it.
Oh yeah,
but the
absolutely
best culture's
love
gonna
it.
Win, right? The best culture's going to win. If you've been eating your people alive and because you laid 70% of your people off, and the poor 30% that, yes, we're lucky enough to still have a paycheck. They were worked to death to cover that other 70%.
So this is one of those Tasmanian devils that has to come out of my head.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, as we talk about our three core processes, the middle one being recruitment, we need to start putting out the message about what is it about your experience in the last 12 months that made you realize it's not what you want to do. Right? And is this an opportunity to pivot into a very free life of you defining what you want to do, you still achieving your financial objectives to take care of your family, but creating a whole new pathway? I think we would be ideal. Get out your paper and start writing stuff down, but...
No, I completely agree. It was funny. Kyle just gave me a kick in the butt the other day about part of our recruiting. I had diligently put out and refined our proper, digital marketer job description and this, that, and the other. And we're talking after hours, unfortunately. But he said, I think you're thinking about this wrong. He said, we are hiring future leaders. Why are you not saying that? We're growing like crazy. We're doing something different. We have so much digital demand and digital work right now that whoever we hire is going to be blazing this new division. There is no telling where it's going to go. And you're purposefully hiring somebody insanely curious, hungry, driven, insatiable, for optimization and for ideas and where is the market going. He said, that is a leader. That is not just a doer. And there are certain people that are going to take, a different, not compensation package, but a different salary for that potential, especially recognizing the stamp they can make and what they want. And I thought, Yes.
They need
I'm going to go change the job description
it needs
right
to
now.
be their baby.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think about the things that y'all done for Just New Life, right? So when we pivoted about a year ago, this is a term that just pops in my head, experiential marketing.
Yes.
And not just branding, because what did I tell you about branding from the very beginning? I like branding, but I love revenue.
Exactly. I love warm and informed leads.
Right, exactly. But that experiential marketing, whether it's this kind of stuff, some of the programs that we're putting on, and then leveraging those into messages, the awareness, visibility, and leads, warm and informed leads that we've gotten in the marketplace since then has been life-changing. It's stunning how much better we are positioned in the marketplace right now. But, leveraging some of those people and says, we don't want doers, we want thought leaders, we want, activity leaders, because that experiential marketing thing for us has been transformative.
Yeah.
And this is not a paid sponsor. Although you'll take the money. Though.
If you want to slide the 20 over now, I'll take it.
Under the table, there's cameras on too. It's not a podcast.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love it.
Well, it's been over an hour. I mean, well over an hour.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're gonna
gosh.
wrap.
We
or
probably
keep
should
it-
wrap.
No.
No, we definitely
You got
should.
Other questions? Anything else?
I will
We've been
too.
trying to keep these around an hour.
Well, it might turn into multiple.
Let's-
So
I'm sure if you edit out all my gas, we'll be done in 15 minutes.
Oh no! There won't
Trust
be
me,
any
no
editing
way.
on this.
we can
Yeah.
edit me out, but not that.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously, I need to ask you guys like how to find you, that kind of thing. Is there anything else I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
For me, it's just really, for people that are going through all these changes, just ask yourself why. Ask yourself what you're going to learn from this, and ask yourself what you're going to do with it. Because we use failure like it's a bad word.
Right.
Failure, when embraced as what it really is the greatest professor in learning to in the world, is a life-changing, wonderful thing. Right?
Yeah.
Only if you're willing to embrace it and says, what am I here to learn? What am I here to go and do? It's one of the reasons why I started New Life, from those learning events. But if we're going to look at failure like it's an ugly F word, then don't be surprised if you don't get anything, because nobody gets very far with their successes. Everybody gets really far by embracing their failures.
Right. That's awesome.
Gosh, I know, and I could not agree more. We can cut this part out because that's such a drop the mic. But I just, I mean, it probably
Like
will, but
literally?
right? No, but I think about that, and I have this little thing inside of my medicine cabinet that says "win or learn," because I had to go through a point about 2 years ago where I realized being so angry and just repugnant towards myself in the mirror over any mistake I made, any failure, anything I didn't know was crushing my ability to do my best work and to grow the company and to walk the walk that I actually felt about other people, but I wasn't giving myself the same grace. And it's interesting because when you said that, first job, okay, wasn't a fit. Well, you could technically say that was a failure. I did do some good stuff, but eventually it was like, I'm in the wrong place, the wrong industry, commercial construction is not my thing. Pharmaceutical, same thing. I mean, it's a series of, This is not my place. I'm not amazing at this. What else? And for me, the culmination of all of those misfits, ended up being exactly what makes me good in my role today.
Absolutely.
And so, and you're right, without all of those, not just one of them, I would never be here. And I'm like, yes, exactly.
There's only really one job I had where I don't think it was a good fit at the time.
Yeah.
Not that by the time I left some of those jobs, I was done with them. But when I started them, the excitement I had with them and the experiences that it gave me at that time, the majority of them. Looking back, I'm like, oh, I did that for how long? Or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
But,
you have a lot of stick with itness.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but too often, so many situations, so many situations
Yeah.
are like the movie The World According to Garp. right?
Haven't seen it.
Oh, it's fantastic. There's one great scene. It's the best thing about learning from bad situations. So Garp and his wife, can't remember her name, they're looking at this great brand new house because he's starting to do stuff and actually making money. And as they're looking at it, they're like, this is a fantastic place. Oh my gosh, we're going to love living here. Look at this place. And in comes this plane. Oh,
While they're looking at it,
crashes right into the side of the house. Horrible situation for 99.9% of the world.
Yeah.
But Garp goes, oh my God, well, take it. And the realtor's like, why would you ever take this house? He goes, the probability of anything else bad ever happening to this house is nil. We are 100% in. I love that
what was he, a finance major? You know, wondering like that. He's like, the
It is
probability.
the greatest life lesson about, what you've seen is a
That's
disaster.
hilarious.
May be a great opportunity or a blessing in disguise.
That's
So
awesome.
good. So good. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. So where can people find you individually, and also where can people find New Life?
Probably the two easiest places are obviously the internet. Everything's out there on the internet, and there's, want to have a free consultation, you can fill out some forms to do that. But also between New Life and my personal LinkedIn page, there's a whole lot of connection points. Through y'all, we've been really blessed about putting out a whole bunch of articles and video snippets. Obviously, the full videos are available, but for the most person, start there. And what you're going to find out, is this a tonality? Is this a mindset? Is it a way of viewing the world that either resonates or it doesn't? And that's all good, because what we want is, if it doesn't resonate, our commitment is we're going to help you find somebody else in my Rolodex, old term, I get it, that does help to connect for what you need. But that's the easiest place, those three locations.
Perfect. Perfect.
I can say, if you think you know your business, you better think twice and kind of do some research and pull up Burt of what he has to say about your financials.
Oh, you will.
100%. You'll learn something. There'll be a takeaway
Yes.
for sure.
Exactly.
Even if it's just Garp watching a plane crash their house.
Not so much. Lola, any final thoughts?
I can't think of anything. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
thank you very much.
It's
This
been
is
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
So fun. Onward and upward.
All right.
That's
Thanks.
right.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Corporate Caffeine Podcast, please help us help you by subscribing. I also hope you'll find us on social media. You can follow me, Dacia Coffee, and my company, The Marketing Blender, by searching us on your favorite platform or checking out the show notes for the links. We bring this to you because we envision a business world full of meaning, connection, and prosperity for us all. Until next time, onward and upward.